Experience the energy. This is the 1Trance podcast, hosted by Reboot.
Hey everybody, welcome to 1Trance podcast. Our guest is a Dutch uplifting trance DJ and producer. Originally from Scheveningen, Netherlands, he now resides in Manchester, UK. He specializes in high-energy, melodic, vocal-driven uplift trance, often blending melancholic emotions with soaring hooks and uplifting aura. He began actively producing and performing around 2021, or maybe even earlier under other names, with his professional output gaining momentum in the early 20s. His releases appear on labels such as Nocturnal Nights Music, 1Trance, 140 Music, Kinetic Recordings, Regenerate, Guillaume Music, and others. Notable tracks include Take Us Home, All You Need Is Me, Pave the Way, and Parley Part 2, The Bassline Will Bring Me Home, and also earlier works like Inspire and remixes such as Blessed and Rise Against. His sound has earned support from major trance figures like Armin van Buuren, Andrew Rayel, and Giuseppe Ottaviani. He's described as fast becoming a standout in vocal trance, with tracks praised for their emotional depth and dance floor energy. Beyond production, he hosts the Nocturnal Nights radio show, which helps him connect with his global trance community and showcase uplifting music. He performs at events and has built a presence through platforms such as SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, and Beatport. He has also been involved in projects like Tidy 2 and guest mixes on uplifting trance podcasts and shows. He represents the passionate, independent side of modern trance scene, focusing on melodic, vocal-driven tracks that prioritize emotion and energy over pure technical minimalism. His move from the Netherlands to Manchester has likely exposed him to a vibrant UK electronic music scene, while keeping his Dutch trance roots intact. Welcome to the podcast, Angelus. Hey, floor is yours. How you doing?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
everyone.
Yes, sir. So you moved from the Netherlands, Scheveningen, to Manchester. How was that shift of environment and music scene influence your production style?
To be honest, like I grew up in the UK. So when I moved from Holland to here, it was like I was 7, but then I moved back for a bit, sort of early 20s. But by that point, I'd already sort of fell in love with trance, and started. I mean, I've been producing for over 20 years.
Wow.
All different kinds of all different kinds of music and stuff. And so yeah, it was moving from Holland back over here. It wasn't like a shift in anything, because I was going to like trance shows over here like a long time ago. Like
So
even
you moved
before I moved back.
initially, yes, sir. You moved initially at 7. And how old were you when you moved back to the Netherlands?
I think I was like, God, I think I was like maybe 20, 21.
Oh, okay, got
Early
you.
20s, yeah, early
Okay.
20s.
So the
And
music was already there.
yeah, definitely. I think I got into trance when I was like, I mean, because I was still going to Holland even as a kid, you're very early on, like Tiesto and Armin, they were like celebrities in Holland probably before that.
They still are.
Yeah, but even back then it was hard to not like, especially Tiesto, because his tracks were on like, all the music stations and stuff over there. They used to have one called The Box, which basically just played random clips, kind of like, what they had over here. And yeah, they had loads of dance music on there. I remember that because it was like, back then it was kind of uncommon for that to be on TV. But yeah, with Tiesto. And I remember as well, like obviously the Olympics are a big national event, and we were on holiday in Spain and we watched, the opening ceremony of
Yeah.
2004. Yeah, we were in like this Dutch bar, so everyone there was Dutch, and yeah, it was just it was a big thing, when he did that opening. It was a real national kind of sort of, something that they were very proud of.
Yes. And, with the move back and forth, I'm pretty sure you got some, as you got older in the UK, you got some influences from the UK, and then you also went back to the Netherlands, and you probably went there on vacation as well. But when did trance go from something you loved to something you had to create? When did that happen for you?
Pretty much straight away, to be honest, because I started off DJing trance music, And then it was a case of, and at the time, I think I was like maybe like 16, 17. And I learned how to produce, and basically, from the get go, I'd always made trance music or tried to make trance music. That's probably the key word, because it was very different producing back then. There wasn't like, well, there was YouTube, but there wasn't really like a lot on there, and all the sample packs and things that we have now.
Yeah, of course. I
It
mean, you
was
had to
very,
probably go dig up records and stuff and create your own samples, I assume.
yeah, yeah. Well, we had Vengeance. That was like Vengeance Essential Club Sounds 2. That was like the holy grail at the time. That was like, yeah, that and then, we had Silence, and Spire came a little bit later. But I mean, I started off in Reason, like the program Reason, and
Yeah.
they didn't even let you use VSTs like back in the day. So everything had to come from inside the program, and yeah, it was very difficult making trance music back in those days.
And it's actually that you mentioned this because this actually goes along to the next question. What did your early productions sound like compared to now? I know different times, different software, different things. So how does your early productions really sound compared to now?
Well, it's strange really, because when I was over living in Holland, so when I went back in my early 20s, I was DJing then as well. It was more like, you kind of Saturday night club DJ kind of thing, playing, and house music was really big at the time. Like, this is this is a pretty funny story. I once got booked to play a gig, and it was like nobody knew who I was or anything like that. I was just kind of a warm up DJ, and it was at this like beach party, but it was really early, and there was no one there. And basically, there was this guy DJing there to like this empty room, and I was like, I recognize him, but not because he was famous, because at the time it was. Anyway, it was Afrojack.
Wow.
But you see, you say, "Oh wow," at the time, like he was doing okay in like the Dutch kind of house scene, but it wasn't like he is now. You know what I mean? Like now, like
Yeah.
if they booked him, it definitely, they wouldn't have fit enough people in that room in terms of,
You know,
how.
the thing is that him doing that set in an empty room, he probably kind of, it could have been the path that he was on to become even more famous, if you think about it. No, if he hadn't done that, who knows? I mean, he probably would still be famous, but, which could have been a stepping stone for him, which is pretty cool because you sometimes meet these people in the least expected places, if you think about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like every DJ goes through that at some point. You know, the yeah, it's not nice when it happens. The thing was like, oh, the way I see it as well is like, if you're getting paid a fee or whatever, then, which at the time it was, I mean, when you think about being a commercial club DJ kind of thing, you're not doing that just because you love it. I mean, it's a good job, but you're just doing it to sort of provide a good night out for the people that are in that club or in that bar or whatever. You just, like, I've done DJ sets where I've played nothing but like Dutch folk music, but
Yeah,
over there they love it. So yeah, it's just it's a whole different world, I think, to when you're in like a scene of music, and you're an artist in that scene, and you're playing at actual parties for that music. It's very, very different, but I mean, both are obviously a lot of fun. There's
absolutely.
definitely, DJing, I think, as a whole, is always a very, if there's people, that
Yeah, if
being the
there's
key.
people, of course.
That's the key sort of decision maker. If there's people there, it's it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah. So going to your production, tell us about your production workflow. Do you start with melodies, bass lines, atmosphere? I mean, from the people that we interviewed in the past, it seems like every producer is different when it comes to what they start with. What do you start with when you make a track?
So usually it'll be like the chords or the melody. I mean, the two kind of, you know,
Go together.
interlink in a way, and that will. I mean, I've got loads of projects that are just chords and a melody. So there's a lot of sketches that happen. But that's usually how I'll start. And then once I've got something that I think, oh, this is cool, then I sort of decide, like, could a vocal go with it, or is it, let's try and sort of build a track around it. Yeah, that it's always the melody and the vocals that sort of decide which direction the track goes in.
Nice. Did you have any favorite synths or techniques that you rely on for that signature Angelus energy on your tracks?
Yeah, probably a lot of Spire. Like, Spire gets used a lot. I still use Silent. I've got my Silent sound pack that I made, so there's loads of sounds in there that I use them so often. I was like, it would be nice to just have them all in one folder kind of thing. So yeah, those are probably the two. Instead of like, in terms of techniques, recently I'm trying to sort of step away from, like, almost going on like autopilot and doing things that I do a lot. I wanna try different things, because it's taken a lot now for me to be making a track and then really feel like, oh, it's something a bit different, or something that gets me excited. The only thing that always really just does it for me is if, like, there's a vocal of some kind. And, like, if that vocal can just take any track, really, if it's a good vocal, and really sort of, bring out the magic, I think. I struggle with writing instrumentals. And even when I do like an instrumental, I still need some sort of, like, vocal chop or ad lib or something in there. Like, just like the female human voice has to be in the track somewhere, or I'm just like, it bores me.
So actually, this is actually a very good point that you talked about. First of all, vocal trance, in my opinion, is just amazing. The feeling, your hair stands up, goosebumps, all that good stuff. So, and that's why I'm saying your music often features strong vocal elements and, uplifting vibes. What draws you to the vocal trance specifically? I know there's so many types of trance out there, but specifically vocal trance, what draws you to that?
Well, I think when it comes to trance, if you speak to a lot of, producers and DJs, the one thing that people really seem to want at the minute is like an old school sound. But the main thing that everyone wants is they want, like, more people to get into the genre, and maybe younger people as well. Everyone's sort of wanting, like, young people who just don't really have much interest in trance to, if they listen to it, they'd like it, kind of thing. And my goal when making a track has always been to make it as, like, appealing to as many people as possible. Even though I think, you listen to, say, a 10-minute track as a trance fan, and you think, wow, this is amazing. In my experience, if you say you had someone who was new or hadn't heard of trance before, and you said, oh, I'll send you a song, I feel like there just needs to be almost like something that's a bit friendlier for new people. I think that's always been my goal, like, to make music that's, like, catchy and just something that as many different people as possible can enjoy. I think that was always the goal. And with vocal trance, that's how it happens.
And in my opinion, vocal trance, you'll think if anybody going to relate, like the younger crowd, they're going to relate to trance. I think that vocal trance will probably assist with that because they feel the emotion of the lyrics, and along with the music. So that helps. How, I know you've done collaborations, obviously, but how do you approach collaborating with vocalists? Do you have a specific favorite one? And then with that, do you guys work together on the lyrics? Do you leave the lyrics to the vocalist, or how do you collaborate with that?
Yeah, it's some, I think with working with vocalists is getting, obviously, to know them first of all. So you can actually talk with them and work out how everyone's different. I think some people, they'll just send them, like, a full track and say, right, sing me a top line over that. Or other people, they meet up with the vocalist, let's say, or do it over Zoom and work out building a song from scratch and then making it into a track. For me, really, it's all about what the vocalist wants. Really, I'm pretty easygoing. Like, if they want me to send them a track, I can do. If they want to, work on the lyrics together, or, I mean, I might have suggestions. Like, they
Yeah,
might
yeah.
sing something and I might hear because I'm very much when it comes to producing music, it's all about like what I'm hearing in my head, and it drives me mad. Like when I'm producing something and I just can't get the two sort of aligned. So I might be working with a vocalist and she sings something and it might, it'll sound amazing, but there's like one little word or something where I'm like, oh no, go to that note or go down to that note kind of thing. But
And
but I mean,
they pretty much, they're okay with you giving those suggestions, of course, right?
yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll make a suggestion and then they'll do it and they'll send it back and I'll be like, no, actually,
Go back to the
that's
other
the
one.
third idea you had.
So,
But like,
do you have, if you want to mention anybody, do you have any favorite vocalists that you've worked with?
yeah, well, there's Renfei definitely.
Yes, she's amazing.
Fantastic vocalist, yeah, 100%. Um, such a nice person as well. Really, yeah, a genuinely lovely person. And Jessica, she was great when I worked with Leah Melly. Claire Willis, I really like
Yeah,
her
yeah,
vocals.
Claire.
Yeah, I've got like my two two all time favorites that I've not worked with, but I'd love to work with, and one being Audrey Gallagher.
Yeah,
Yeah, just a stunning voice. And the other is Roxanne Emery.
yeah.
She's
They're all amazing.
yeah.
I might actually tag them all on the episode as well to give them a shout out. So, and I forgot to ask you something earlier. Do you come from a musical background, a musical family, that kind of helped you get into the producing side of things?
No, no, not really. I sort of did it all myself. I mean, I was always into music. When I was a kid, like I started playing guitar and I was into like rock music and heavy metal and all of that. And I played in a band. We did some gigs in Manchester and stuff. And yeah, it was good. That was the first thing. And then what it was, my mum at the time had a boyfriend, and he was, I don't know, he was like friends or something with Sasha. Something like I can't remember the full ins and outs of it, but he knew
Yeah,
Sasha and he knew John Digweed. And by this point, I didn't even know what a DJ really did. It's just like I didn't really get it. You know what I mean? It was. I mean, I listened to dance music and I was like, yeah, this is good, but I had no idea about yeah, a DJ mixes and they sit in a studio and make this music using synths and samplers, all of that stuff. I had
yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
idea. But so he was telling me about DJing and stuff, and then I bought like this DJ starter set, which was two belt-driven turntables and a little tiny mixer, and then a headphone. And this was back. We had a shop in the UK called HMV, and like HMV sold vinyls, and you had to like order vinyls online. I can't remember what the website was, but yeah, I used to get like these vinyls sent through, and then I'd just be there learning how to mix on these god awful turntables. But I mean, I was mixing anything at the time. Like it was all I was literally. I mean, there was some trance tracks in there, like the real classics, but I hadn't fully. I didn't even probably know that that was called trance at the time because it was like I was quite young, and then when I sort of found what trance was, and there was like a trance website it was like a forum in Holland. I think it was trance.nu. I think that
Okay.
was like the big, and there was also Trance Addicts, I think it was called, or another like sort of trance forum that loads of people were on, and that's when I kind of really discovered the actual genre, of what trance was.
But that's an amazing story. I mean, you started with this, and I mean, you moved up from there and all this. A lot of people sometimes get the decks or the vinyls and they practice and they do, and then that's it. But you actually continued on. Now, speaking of continuing on, you actually have received very, very big support from very big names like Armin van Buuren, Andrew Rayel, and others. Can you walk us through the moment when you realized that your music was breaking through a wider audience? Like when these guys start playing your tracks and they have massive followers, massive audience. To walk us through that moment, that feeling when you first realized this.
Yeah, I think all these big DJs, I think when you're a trance fan, it's obviously amazing to get that support. I think the reason why it kind of hits a bit different when Armin plays your track. Is like I've got, half of my family is in Holland, and everybody in Holland knows who Armin is. So,
Of course, yeah.
like I could literally, I could ring up like my auntie in Holland and say, "Oh, such and such big DJ has played my track," and they'll be like, "Oh, well done." But then if I sort of said, "Oh, Armin played my track," all of a sudden now it's like it's a big thing, kind of,
Like
it's
everybody running around the house screaming,
yeah. I mean, just I don't know about running around the house
just
screaming,
a
but
figure of speech, yeah.
definitely, yeah, yeah. that would be nice if they all did that, but yeah, more just like a genuine sort of like, oh, well done kind of thing.
But I mean, I can just imagine the feeling of, we've had other producers in the podcast with that Armin played their track as well, and Eternal Waves, Phil, he mentioned that he was actually outside working on a shed in the rain when Armin played his track. And I literally said, "Oh, you were dancing in the rain then," made a kind of comment, a funny comment about that. But the feeling of having somebody such as big as Armin to play your track, it's almost like a validation that you're doing something right, if I may say.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wasn't dancing in the rain, but the first time I ever got a track supported from Armin was the track that I did with Liam Melly and Jessica. And like that was kind of like where my phone started buzzing and I was like, what's going on? And then I saw like, messages from other producers and stuff like, oh, congrats on the ASOP play. And I was like, what? And then the second time, which was Take Us Home, that one I think felt really good because like there was a lot that sort of, when you have like you doubt certain things about your sound or about
Of
a
course.
technique or whatever, things like that. That was like a nice validation kind of thing for that one, because that track was, yeah, it was all everything in that track was almost built from the ground up, like around it. Yeah, it was everything flowed really nicely putting that track together. So it was really cool to see that one get support.
Of course, I can only imagine. So you also host the Nocturnal Nights Radio. You play a role in curating and promoting uplifting trance. What trends are you seeing in the scene right now? Which ways uplifting or trance in general is going? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think everyone's trying to go after this old school sound, whatever that is. Sometimes it's that's definitely sort of, I'm hearing that a lot and seeing that a lot. But yeah, there's I mean the truth with trance music is that there's a lot of labels releasing a lot of music.
That's true. That's very true.
So uh, when I'm listening to music, there's lots of variety. Like in the Nocturnal Nights radio show, I don't just jump in sort of from minute one with like full 140 or 144. It kind of try and start with like maybe some more progressive stuff,
Yep. And you
and
build
then
up.
and then build it up to the really sort of heavier stuff. But it all depends. Like every week really is different when it comes to demos. Like you'll always see remixes of old tracks, and yeah, I like them. Or you'll see maybe some collaborations and stuff that you think, oh, I wonder what those two have come up with. I obviously listen to a lot of vocal tracks because that's just what I like. So there's lots of variety to kind of pick from each week.
So even though it's Nocturnal Nights Radio, you still play tracks from other labels as well?
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Nocturnal, we release like 2 tracks a week.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be a very short show. If it was just that. No, I mean, I tend to play a lot of tracks from the different labels on Black Hole, and also just other labels that I've either heard tracks from or that I'm a fan of. That seems to be the sort of the running order.
So here's a plug-in. So I have a track that was released on 10 April on Aros Music. So if you like, I'll send them to you and you can take a listen and see if you like to play or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
always send it over. Yeah, there's that's the best way to
Yeah, we'll talk
get music
afterwards.
to me.
Yeah, we'll talk about.
No
So
worries. No problems.
As far as trance is right now, what do you hope to preserve, or what do you think as far as evolving? Do you see any the trance evolving at all? Besides the old school sounds, do you see anything else evolving with trance? Is it becoming more techy, less techy?
No, it seems to go in like phases. So
That's true.
there
Yeah.
was the phase where everything went really techy and everyone had like this techno alias, and then there was like loads of techno everywhere, and that was a massive thing. And then it's turned now into everyone's going for a more old school kind of sound. There's also sort of that Hannah Lang kind of style
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really popular. So yeah, I think with trance there'll always be trance, but it'll probably kind of shift a little bit to depending on what's popular, or what's really working well in clubs and festivals and things like that, because that's what it's all about. It's all about when you play a DJ set that you give the people that have paid or that are there, that have bought a ticket, the best the most enjoyable kind of night that or day that they can have.
Of course, of course. And what do most people misunderstand about the trance scene, in your opinion? If
Well,
there's anything, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody sort of misunderstands anything. I just think, yeah, it's more a case of what's going to cause sort of the younger generations of people to start or to take a liking to it, to sort of fall in love with it. Um, if how is that going to play out, and also, and this is like something completely different, but like I read in this thing that like my generation, I don't know, like we were most likely to meet our future partner in like say a bar or a club,
Okay,
whereas
yeah,
like
yeah.
the current generation, they're most likely to meet their future sort of husband or wife at a local running club. So like, when you hear like those kind of stats, you think, well, are young people like just not going out anymore? I don't know. I don't sort of have anybody that's in that kind of, I don't know, 18 to 20 bracket to see. And if they do, where do they go? Why do they go there? What is it that, I mean, I know techno is pretty big with the younger generation.
That is true. I mean, there's a big resurgence on techno. That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, and I see it on like people that on Instagram when they're at these big techno events and they're showing videos like it looks like a very I think they seem to like cover all ages with techno. Like you could have some older people, you could have some like really young people there as well. It's strange, and yeah, trance just seems to really not be able to get that younger generation at the minute. It could change, and I know that like I said, there's certain sounds that probably are more appealing to the youth. But yeah, only time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, here's another funny story. I was flying with my wife to Greece to go like a week long vacation, and right behind me was Lily Palmer.
All right.
Yeah, the amazing, big, amazing techno DJ. Yeah, so that was cool. That was very cool. But the thing is, like, I've been to Transmission, in the Netherlands and in Prague, and I've been to other festivals, and looking online to other big name festivals, Ultra and other things like that, Tomorrowland. I do see, in my opinion, and I'm not going against what you're saying, of course, you know more about this than I do, but I do see quite a bit of people that seem to be in the like 20, 25 to 30, 35. And yes, there's quite a bit of older people as well, of course. But I do see those people. So you're kind of talking more of the younger than that, like the 18-year-old to the 20s, early 20s, right?
Yeah, well, I'd say 18 to 25. If if you took 118 to 25-year-olds to like a proper uplifting trance night with like 2-minute breakdowns, the sort of the trance that I can't see a lot of the 100 that you took with you staying. Like it's just for whatever reason, and I'm not saying there might be some that like it, but yeah, it just does. Seems to be something about it that's not appealing to them. You know what I mean? It's strange.
It's a
Yeah,
generational thing.
definitely. Yeah, I think when I was a student, I was a student in Leeds in the UK, and there was a place there called Gatecrasher Discotheque. It was like this new branch off club that Gatecrasher had made, and they did trance nights then, back then. I think it was on like oh no, it was on a Saturday, and yeah, I used to go there. It was packed. It was like absolutely rammed, and like there was so many different people as well, like age groups, mainly young people, to be fair. And that was in like, God, how old would I have been? That was in maybe like 2007, 2008. So, it definitely is, it's definitely a generational thing, I think. And obviously back then we didn't have like all this social media neither,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we
of
had
course.
MySpace. MySpace was, that
Yeah, I
was it.
remember that.
Yeah, that was it.
Tom
There
from
was no
MySpace.
TikTok. Yeah, there was no TikTok or anything like that. And yeah, it was really cool back then, to be fair. And I used to go to a club in Manchester called Tangled. I actually saw Gareth Emery there also before he was like, world famous. Yeah, I had a chat with him in the corridor there, and he told me that he'd just driven down from God's Kitchen, or he'd either just driven from God's Kitchen, or he needed to go and drive to God's Kitchen because he had like a gig there a bit later. I think UK's always had a pretty strong trance scene. It's
Yeah, I think the
definitely.
UK and even the Netherlands, both those countries have had a pretty strong trance scene. Now, Germany, where I'm at, it's all about the more hardcore. Like they love their techno, they love their harder techno. There's a club down here in Stuttgart called Proton, and I've seen Giuseppe Ottaviani there, Andrew Rael, Marcus Scholes, Cosmic Gate. I mean, all these big names. But if you look at their calendar, their monthly calendar is like techno, 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 techno. So once in a while, yeah, it happens, and me and my friends go. So as far as industry and growth, what has been the biggest challenges in as far as building your career as an independent trance producer? Whether it's the labels, staying inspired, balancing life with music, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
I think when you're a DJ and you want to obviously you want to travel and you want to get gigs and you want to get bookings and things like that. I think a huge shock to me was all the sort of networking that's involved. Now, me, I'm like, I'm friendly to everyone, but I'm not really like a networker. Like the idea of talking to someone just because you want to try and get some, I don't know, it's never been my thing. But more fool me really, because some people are really good at it, and they get to very very big places just by yeah, just having a chat and meeting different people and going to all these different places. And that's definitely been a struggle. Just yeah, I don't know why. I'd much like rather just meet somebody for like, hey, how's it going, kind of thing, rather than hey, so I hear you put on this
Yes,
night.
so you don't like to be pushy. You don't like to be pushy
No,
when it comes to this stuff. Yeah.
no, exactly. And it's just not my style. I always like pretty much, yeah, you definitely do need it. But I think what's worked for me in the past is like when other people have maybe like recommended me. I think that becomes more genuine then. It's like say you're a promoter and you book someone, and that you know that person that says, "Oh, you should check out this person or this person." To me, that just comes across, uh, a bit stronger, I think.
Okay, and well, and the thing is now, like you mentioned before, back then you didn't have social media. Now we do. I think, and I have done this myself. I have sent messages to big name producers and DJs, and they actually reply back, surprisingly, to some of them. So I think the social media age is, I'm not saying you're shy. I'm not saying you're introvert by any means, but for those people that may be, social media times now, it's a lot easier to get a hold of a record label, a producer, a DJ, and things like that. That way, you may not want to have that one-on-one conversation, but you still allows you to approach them, in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's different with DJs and producers and promoters. Distinct, for me anyway, there's a difference there in how you communicate with them, or how people, I should say, communicate with them, because it's just very tough at the minute for the events and the promotion industry as a whole. That a lot of them are taking big risks and things like that. So it's a very tough thing to do, I think. Whereas with DJs and producers, usually you're talking about music in a way.
Yeah.
Um, you're just talking, or production is another thing. But I don't, you know what? It's weird actually. I feel like I used to speak to loads of people about production and just, sending back and forth ideas and talking about plugins or whatever. But lately, that seems to have died off a bit. I don't know. I don't know what's happened.
I mean, that is weird, but I mean, we all have lives besides making music, or at least most of us do. So, I mean, just busy lives and stuff like that. But you actually done pretty good. You released in a variety of labels, big ones at that. How do you decide which tracks go to which label?
I have like a 3 strike and you're out rule. So
Okay.
basically, I mean, the labels are different depending on like what the track is like. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll send it to one label, see what they say. I'll send it to the next label, see what they say, and then I'll send it to the third label. And then if 3 labels say no, then I'll say, all right, it's obviously not a good track. But no, usually I'll just listen to the track and I'll think, "Oh, this fits well here or this fits well here." I mean, to be fair, Nocturnal Nights, Ram and all the people, Dan, all
Yeah,
the people
absolutely.
involved there, are really cool people. They've really treated me well. So it's definitely fun and it feels good being a part of that.
I can only imagine as well. Yeah. I mean, that's a big
So
label.
yeah, 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 and it's going from strength to strength, and it's really positive to be a part of that. So to be fair, these days now, because the thing is, when you're dealing with like labels where you might not be as familiar, or you don't have sort of a connection, it just takes a long time. Like I've gone like 6 months waiting to hear back from a label because changes and messing around and this change, that change, and then and it was just a nightmare. Or you get on like a really big label and it's like, oh, when's this track coming out? Oh well, it'll come out in like a year and a half from now. Right? Okay. So what's good about being part of a label or part of a label team? All those steps just go like really quickly. And even if it's a rejection, like even if the track isn't good enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not waiting like a month to find out if it's not good enough or not. Like it's usually a case of sending it to the your friend who's the A&R person, and
Oh,
then they'll say, "Oh yeah, no, this isn't, or this is good, or this is not good," and everything just goes a lot smoother. And I'm loyal as well, so when I've always said this, I feel like if a label looks after me, sort of, and gives me opportunities as well,
yeah.
then I'll always tend to favor that label and sort of stick with them. So yeah, 9 times out of 10 now, I'll send a demo to Nocturnal first, to Ram or to Ryan, and yeah, that it tends to go from there really.
Of course. I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. If they treat you good, you're going to provide them the first crack at it, as they say. But speaking of that, speaking of Nocturnal Nights, what makes a track feel Nocturnal Nights ready versus something else that goes to a different label? Is there a specific sound they like?
Well, it's very more. It depends because obviously there's Nocturnal Nights, which is the main label, and then you've got Nocturnal Nights Fusion, which is the more sort of techie, experimental kind of side. I'd say. So one, which of those two categories is it in? And two, it's just got to be it's got to be a track that's going to do good numbers. Lots of nocturnal tracks get supported on a state of trance. I'd say with, if you keep sending a big name DJ tracks that they don't like, at some point they're just going to stop looking. So I think what's really important for Nocturnal is that all the tracks that get sent around in promos, they are really good, and that the DJs who listen to them, they see, this is a Nocturnal Nights track. This is I'm going to listen to this because this is going to be good, or I've supported this label's tracks before, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's the main thing. It's just got to be a track that's strong enough to be able to do really well, on Beatport, on Spotify, and just getting support. Because obviously it's part of Black Hole as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And they sort of oversee everything, and they also want sort of the best quality. And I think, in today's day and age, really, I think every producer, and I do this too, by the way. It's not like I'm sort of trying to preach, but I think any producer now should listen to a track that they've made. And it's not easy neither, because obviously you've kind of poured your life and soul into the track. But you've got to listen to it. You've got to say, okay, is this track any different to the 1 million other tracks trance tracks that are getting released this week? Like, is this track going to stand out in any kind of way? And then if you really, really think it is, then yeah, send it over, and the A&R will have a listen to it and decide if it's worth signing.
Nice, nice. Consistency versus big releases. Which matters the most?
Big releases, 100%.
Okay.
Everyone releases music consistently, but everyone's chasing the hits. That's what somebody told me, and it's very,
That's
very
very
tough.
true. If you think about it, that's very true. Yeah.
But it's extremely tough to make a hit record. Like, it's especially now, because most original music that comes out, it'll be released and it'll have sort of its week to 2 weeks in the sun, and then it's almost like it goes into the nether realm and it disappears forever. So to even get a track that you release that still manages to stay relevant for a bit longer, is a big thing. So if you then have like a hit where it's really, doing well and people are talking to you about it and saying, I love that track, even like years later, then, if there was like a magic button where you could make just those kind of tracks, it'd be getting mashed repeatedly. But that's the hardest thing. So every time you have a big release, like, and I say, really big release, I'd say it's worth way more than just, releasing tracks and being consistent. And to be fair, I've done both. Like, I used to release
I
tracks
think
every
everybody
month,
has, to be honest.
yeah, but yeah, that's definitely, the big release is I would, if I could have like 12 consistent releases throughout the year, or one track that just blew up and exploded, I would take the one track every day.
Quality versus quantity kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not even that, like, say you're releasing a track every month, yeah. It's not even that those tracks are bad quality, like, production wise, sound wise. It's just, is anyone gonna remember that track, a month from now, a year from now, 6 months from now?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you want to make music that people remember, I think, is probably the best way of describing it. But on the flip side, if you don't release anything, then you'll never have a chance at that, because you'll definitely sometimes release a track and think, oh God, this isn't any good. And then all of a sudden it blows up and everybody loves it. So it's kind of like a fine balance.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to have some releases, but I think you've got to be uber critical on yourself to really know, like, okay, I wanna just say, I don't know, release, like Sam Jones is a good example. Sam Jones, like, doesn't release many tracks,
Yeah.
but every time he does, you want to listen to it because it's going to be like really, really good. That's kind of the thing that I want to try and aim for. So instead of just flooding the market with loads of tracks, I want to go to like a point where I don't release as many tracks, but every time I do, I want people to be like, here's another Angelus track. I think that's a better, I don't know, it's a better way of doing it, I think, in my opinion.
We have talked about this particular topic to other producers, and then, we didn't, but the conversation is flowing so good right here and you talk about tons of releases from one producer throughout the year versus a few releases. AI is everywhere. I use it at work. I'm not going to lie, in my line of work. It's everywhere. You can't get away from it. And it feels like it's getting worse and worse and worse. I can spot a track. If I'm listening to a track, I can spot a certain sound, a certain vocal tone that tells me, yep, this is AI right away. And what's your take on this, for example?
Well, loads of my music, like one of the things that I'm probably most well known for is that I use a lot of like sample pack vocals. Like I'll find vocals everywhere and use them in a trance track, right? And these are pre-recorded vocals done by a human. And obviously now that's kind of changing and you can program a robot to sing these things. I don't use it just like in that way because I've seen what goes into it and how you have to write lyrics and then move the notes up and down to depend. Like no, like for me, I would always if I was in a situation where let's say I had a track and I needed a vocalist, I would always go to like a human vocalist for it because
100%.
I feel I feel it's like with AI, it's kind of like a bit of that analog versus digital debate with the human being like analog, and
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I think there's just something that I mean I could be nuts, but
No.
it's
That's a
kind of
great.
like
That's a great analogy. Yeah,
it's like vinyl versus MP3. Like the vinyl just sounds better. Like
yeah.
it just does. And there'll be loads of
I
people screaming now, like, no, 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 this is the quality of a WAV file is 50 million times better but it's like there's just something about listening to a vinyl and yeah, I don't know, it's weird, but I think it'll be the same with like human vocalists or musicians and AI. I think you'll always just and another weird thing is like apparently like young like kids today they can actually tell the difference. So, like for older people, it's harder. Like we'll hear something or see something and think, oh, but it's actually, oh, that was actually AI. But with younger people, apparently they're letting them like listen to AI generated music and letting them listen to music from like 20 years ago. And yeah, they can tell a difference. And I think that you will be able to hear a difference.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think everybody will just have their own, preference or their own view on it. Me personally, might be a generational thing as well, but I still like the analog the analog idea of like
Yeah,
an
yeah.
actual human singing. Well, not just not, but but at the same time, let's say I had a recording and it was a really messy recording, or I just couldn't get it to sound right, or whatever. If there was like maybe AI tools that could help me clean up that vocal or help me polish whatever, then I don't really have any issues with that. It's the only thing is I'm like really stubborn. So I'll be there forever thinking that I can do it better than the AI.
And the AI does it in 30 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, the AI can do it in 30 seconds and it takes me like 3 days.
And
No, just, I mean, at the end of the day, what's going to be the determining factor is how profitable is it?
that is
Like if
true.
a
Numbers talk.
yeah, if a record label releases a track and it's made by AI and it makes them millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, like that's going to dictate everything that they do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a business at the end of the day, and that's what's most important is making as much more money as possible. I just I mean, in terms of like categorizing it, saying oh this music was made by AI or this music was not made by AI. My main concern with it is just how flooded the market is. Like I've always thought that anyone can release music now, and if before you'd have to wait for someone to actually, let's say make a track and then release it. Now, let's say you use an AI program and you can make like, I don't know, 20 tracks in a week and release them all. It's just adding like unnecessary sort of like bloat to an already saturated market. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. Could have said it better. Speaking of tracks that you've released, have you ever made a track that was too personal to release?
no. When
No?
I made Keeps Me High, I can't remember. I think I broke up with my girlfriend around the same time, and I was talking to people about the lyrics and stuff like that, and everyone thought it was everyone seems to think that it's like a love song, but it's actually not. Like it's about weed. So like yeah, so at the time I could have had like this amazing story where I was like, oh yeah, made this track and going through this breakup, and I was so sad, and it was like, nope, it was just about weed.
And by the way, this is not a kid-friendly podcast, so that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
And how do you balance, like, you made amazing tracks. How do you balance making music for yourself versus the crowd? I mean, or do you always make the music for the crowd versus yourself?
always for the crowd. Always. At the end of the day, it's not me stood there. Like, I'm not on the dance floor having bought a ticket, watching somebody else play music. You know what I mean? So that is the number one. Well, it's the only important thing, really. And yeah, you want to try and make music that the crowd is going to enjoy at all points. I get it wrong, I'll think, oh, the crowd's going to love this. And then I'm like, well, maybe not.
Nope.
Nope. But I think that's the thing anyway. Like, that's a whole other debate of, are people interested in modern new music, or does everybody just want to hear the hits and the classics at a big
Yep.
night? I don't know. I hope people still want to hear some new music, but
I mean, if you
it's
think
it's
about it, it's a gamble.
yeah, it definitely is. 100%. You're just like, well, I don't get it, Andrew
It
Rayel
sounds good to me. What's
supported
wrong?
this track. Why don't you like it?
I know. So, in one sentence, define your sound if you could do it.
One sentence.
Yep.
I'd say my music is catchy and mass appealing, or I don't know if that sounds weird.
No,
Like,
no,
yeah,
sounds great. I mean, it's true.
yeah,
It's true. It's true.
I'd
Yeah.
say, yeah, catchy, tries to appeal to as many people as possible. You don't have to be like a diehard trance lover to enjoy it. You can just be someone that likes dance music or likes, the classics or not the classics, the vocal classics, whatever it is. I want to make, like I said before, I want it to appeal to as many people as possible.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we always end the podcast what we call rapid fire round. So I'm going to be asking you questions, one answer, one word answer. All right. Let's go. So, what's the one track of yours that you're most proud of right now?
Keeps me high.
Okay. All about the weed. If you could play one classic trance anthem in every set, what would that be?
Mistral, GTR Mistral,
Okay. Studio or live set?
live set.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice you've received in your music career?
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Netherlands or the UK? Which scene has had the bigger impact on you as a producer?
UK.
If you weren't making trance, what genre or career path might you have pursued?
I made hardstyle for a while. Yeah, I'm a big euphoric hardstyle fan. So
All right.
yeah, I'd probably go down that path.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. So looking ahead for the future, what excites you most about the future of trance music? And are there any dream collaborations, events, musical directions, something new that you like to explore?
Yeah, so events, the biggest one for me is Wrong in Manchester. I don't get it, like, why I've not played for them yet, because, I live in Manchester. I've I go I went every year. So that is just one that seems to be almost impossible for whatever reason to get. And I don't know why. I'm wondering if I've like secretly pissed off the people who run it. Like I don't get it. They had once like they posted one of those things like the Wrong Facebook where it was like, who would you like to see? And then people get tagged. I had so many people that
Tagging
tagged
you.
me in that, and I was like, I mean, I was even going in and counting how many tags other people got, just to see if I was
You're
still
like,
on
this is
top.
it. This is it. This is
Yeah,
the year. This
I
is
was
the
like,
year
this
this
is
year.
it. This thing, I was like, but no, nothing. So yeah, that's always. So I'd say that. I'd say Luminosity. also a great place. I'd love to play in London somewhere. I'd love to go in London and play there because I get so many people messaging me about like tracks or songs and stuff, and they're all based in London, and they're all like, "When are you coming to London? When are you coming to London?" And I'm like, well, I was like, if someone in London books me, I'll I could go to London.
Of
I
course.
can come
And
down.
what about going to ADE in the Netherlands? I went last
Yeah.
year. Was really really nice. And I mean, I was right by the stage, and Ram and Richard Durand kept going by. I met, Alex Morph and other people. There's only one person that I wanted to meet the most, and I was right there on the stage. And because he was doing his set, later on, he's like, "Hey, you could have called me over," but I didn't want to bother him. I'm like that. Kieran McCauley. I wanted to meet him very, very much. And I mean, he was doing the set with Reorder, and he was phenomenal. And I was right there in the stairs, but it didn't happen. So I'll be going again this year for sure in October.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, love ADE, love Amsterdam, definitely. Oh, yeah, I'd love to get over there and see, take part in all the festivities. And I'd like to go to like the Black Hole Records pop up thing that they do, and sort of meet all the people that I've only ever sort of spoke to over email. I'd like to see all the people that are sort of involved in the Black Hole.
Yeah, the behind the scenes people.
Yeah, that'd be nice, I think.
It's funny because one of the times, so I was talking about meeting people, one of the times that I went to Transmission in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and there was like a Facebook group that I was part of, and they're like, "Hey, let's all meet down in the square where the big clock is, blah 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 blah. Let's all meet there. Bring a flag of your country, kind of thing." And I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So me and my friend Bill, we went down there, and I'm like standing up, and then I look, and next to me there's, oh my god, I forgot his name. Oh my god, no, I met a bunch of people. I met Orson Nilsson. I met Doxson as well. Craig Conley. Yeah, he was right there. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" That was pretty cool. It's always that first, when you first meet those people, like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm right here." So maybe we'll get to see each other in ADE if you make it over there. That
Yeah,
would
no,
be cool.
definitely. Definitely, I
I mean,
always
I assume that you speak Dutch as well, of course.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
do, yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be nice, yeah. I mean, there's some good trance events coming up in Manchester. So I'm playing for Devotion with Steve Allen.
Yes, you are. I'm really good friends with Chris and Arsip. Really good friends
Oh,
with
right,
him.
okay, yeah, nice, yeah.
Yes,
No, that should be really good,
we actually met for the first time at Transmission in Arnhem. Me and
right?
my friend Bill, I always go with my friend Bill and his wife, and my wife sometimes goes. She doesn't like trance, but she'll go with me. And then,
Mm.
but we met Christian and his wife right in front of us where we were standing. We just struck conversation. Then he met us in Prague for that transmission. So that we've been, I was gonna go, but there's stuff that's come up, so I can't go. But I was gonna go there. I was gonna go to that one on 23 May. Heck, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll still go. I don't know. Maybe I'll still go.
Yeah, it should still
So,
be a good
so
night.
yeah, that'll be a good one. Yeah, Steve Allen will be there and others. Yeah. Any final words?
No, just thanks for having me on. If anybody watching, I mean, I'm guessing most people watching, I'll probably already be friends with you on Facebook. But if not, go on, follow me on my Instagram at Angelus MCR. Everything that I do music wise gets posted there first. If you want to check out, and thanks to everyone for all the love and support, and wishing you all a really good end to the spring, start of summer.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Angelus, for being on the podcast. See, like I told you, it was a really easy,
Yeah,
a really easy conversation, really flowy.
sure.
Thanks for mentioning your socials because I was going to ask you about that. Are you also on SoundCloud as well and Beatport and all those websites,
Yeah,
correct?
everywhere. Spotify, go on Spotify, follow me on there. Beatport. Don't really do much on SoundCloud anymore. But yeah, Beatport, Spotify, and Instagram, TikTok as well. I'm on TikTok.
Yeah,
Same
that's
thing as
right.
well. Everything's at Angelus MCR.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So again, thank you, Angelus, from being on the podcast. Everybody, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share with your fellow trance lovers. And remember, until next time, this is 1Trance Podcast, where trance meets you. Thank you so much.
This is where trance meets you.